Hi, in this video, I'm going to demo on hypothesis testing of two population means and two population proportions. We will start with to test the two population means. Make sure you use the variables that you have selected for the RQ comparison of means of ratio variable between two categories of nominal variable. To conduct the analysis, you cannot use the original data set. You have to rearrange the data. How to rearrange the data? You will need the column of each categories. So since for this one, we want to test two population means, that means the nominal variable that you use will have two categories. Categories is option of answer. What you have to do, you have to get the column of the first category and the second category. The categories of the nominal variable will be the population, population 1 and population 2. The data, each of the data come from ratio variable. Make sure you rearrange before you work on the analysis. We will start with the analysis. Before we compare the two mean, first we have to conduct F-test to see whether the variance are equal or not. Because if you use Excel, there are two options of the data analysis, whether it is for variance that is equal or not equal. So to conduct F-test, the step will be you go to data analysis, and then you select F-test for F-test two sample for variance, and you click OK. A command box will appear. For input, variable 1 will be the data of category 1. Variable 2 will be the data for the category 2. You can select the whole data, including the title or the label, and you tick on the label here. The alpha for group assignment, we always use 5%. Then here you need to set as 0.05. For output range, you tick on the output range and you select where the cells that you want the output to be. Once you have done the setting, you click on OK. Excel will provide you this output. Before I explain on this output, let us see the theory behind this. This is to see whether the data set have equal variance or not. It still follows the 5 steps of hypothesis testing, and it will be used the p-value. The step 1 will be H0 for the standard deviation of the difference between the two populations is 0, and standard deviation is not 0 difference. So if 0 means they are equal. Okay, if not equals to 0 means standard deviation of variance is not equal. Well, equals to 0 means the same. And since we are using the p-value, we will need the p-value. So where to get the p-value? The p-value will come from the output. Okay, how to get the p-value? You have to refer to this p-value one tail. As for this data, the p-value is 0.241819. From the hypothesis testing, the theory behind all this, you have to see here the step 1 is H1. Sorry, this is typo H1. The step 1, it is not equals to. Not equals to means this is two-tailed test. For two-tailed test, you cannot use the original value of the p-value from the output, but you have to multiply the p-value by 2. And once you multiply the p-value by 2, then only you compare with the alpha. And the alpha will be 0.05 for the group assignment. So if the p-value is greater than alpha, that means we do not reject H null. If less than alpha, we reject H null. For this case, the p-value is 0.483638, which is greater than alpha 0.05. That means we do not reject H null. Means we are supporting H null, and H null is the variance or standard deviation of the difference are 0, means they are equal. You have to check this. If your data set have an unequal variance, it is not wrong. Okay, you will need to use the analysis for the data set where the variance are not equal. Both are correct. So in your analysis, you have to show first these steps before you conduct the hypothesis testing of the two mean. All right, based on my demo, the variance are equal. Next, I will proceed with comparing the two mean, and I will use the data analysis that assuming the equal variance. The step will be, you go to data analysis, and then use t-test. We always use t-test even though our sample is large sample. Why? Because the variance of the population is always unknown. So since the variance of population is unknown, we have to use the t-test. Okay, use t-test to sample assuming equal variance. If you have not unequal variance, you have to use the other option, which is unequal variance. But both are similar. The way they calculate behind all the algorithm will be different. Okay. So variable 1, still the category 1 data. Variable 2, the category 2 data. Hypothesize means different, always set this as 0. Okay, because when we compare the two mean, we make it mu1 minus mu2, the H null is equals to 0. So hypothesize mean is always 0. Pick on the label, okay, because when we select the data, we select together with the label. Alpha always 0.05, and the output range, you can choose any cell that you like to present or to have your output. Once you do all the settings, you just click on OK. And Excel will provide you this data, this output. Okay, Excel will provide you this output. The one that you need in the hypothesis testing, the 5 steps of hypothesis testing, is the T statistic. Okay, this will be if you use p-value method, this will be step 2. You just mention it, or if you use traditional method, this will be step 3. Step 2 or 3. And if you have one tail, okay, if you have one tail test, if you use p-value, this will be your p-value. If you use the traditional method, this will be the t-critical. Okay, t-critical means the CV. And if let's say, okay, for one tail, if right tail, it will be positive, use positive. But if left tail, you use negative. You just add on negative 1.71 and so on, negative value. Okay, depend on whether you set the difference to be less whether you set the hypothesis testing ke the step 1 to be left side uh, left tail data or left tail test or right tail test. And if you have two tail tests, okay, the p-value is this, and the three critical, the CV is this. Okay, plus minus. Okay, make it plus minus this value. Right? So what it mean by E here? This means it is 1.12 multiplied with 10 to the power of negative 7. E means times 10 to the power of. That's what it mean by E. Okay, your Excel need to include this output, which is step 1, to test whether the variance are equal or not, and then the output. Okay, you have to highlight whether you are using the one tail or two tail. And in your PDF, you have to come up with the 5 steps of hypothesis testing. The first one is to test the equal or unequal variance. Okay, so there are 5 steps here, right? You have to mention the f-test, you have to mention the p-value inside here. And for step 2, which is on testing the mean, you have to come up with all the 5 steps also. And for this case, you see, for this example, the step 1 is the H1 is less than. For less than, this is one tail test. So for the value of CV, we don't use positive 1.667, but we use negative. So that will be the rejection region. And for the step 3, the test statistic, we use the t-stat value and just put it here and do decision and conclusion. Okay, it's not necessary to be left tail test. It can be right tail or two tail. That will be on testing the two mean. Next is to test the two or to compare the two proportion. For this one, you have to use the variable that you choose for the RQ comparison of percentage of nominal variable among two categories. Again, you have to rearrange the data set before you do your analysis. And your data need to be arranged by categories of the nominal variable. Category 1 and 2. Let's say you want to compare between gender. So you will have the column of male and the column of female and rearrange the data. So you see here, the data will be in category, in coding form, not in ratio data form. Because this is to compare the percentage, the proportion. To compare the proportion, we always use, it is for categorical data, which is nominal data or ordinal data. Note, group A and B are categories of one nominal data, and data are another nominal variable. You have to choose the nominal variable or nominal data and make sure you choose the variable that you have set in the RQ. Formula, okay, for the proportion, we cannot use the data analysis in Excel. You have to use the formula. Okay, but to get all the value like sample proportion, p-bar and so on, you have to use Excel function. the formula to get the test statistic Z test is this. So you need the N1, total of data for the group 1, group A, total of data for the group B, and number of success and number of success for the group 1 and number of success for the group 2. So how you find the total data? You have to use the formula count. And then the data. How you find the X1? You also use formula count if equals to 1. You select the whole data. Okay, make sure you use the Excel function to find the frequency. And to find the p hat bar, okay, p hat 1, it will be the cell of X1 divided by the cell of N1. You have to show that you've used the cell. You select the cell in Excel. When I click on the cell, I want to see you use the Excel formula or Excel function. Same goes to the p hat 2. It will be the cell of X2 divided by the cell of N2. And to find the p bar, you can also select, okay, you add up the cell of X1 and X2, and then you divide by the adding up of the cell of N1 and N2. All need to be used selecting the cell. You have to use Excel function. Then you can find the Q bar also by using Excel function. Once you have all the information needed to find the test statistic, you calculate the Z value. Also using the Excel function. For square root, it will be SQRT. Okay, SQRT. The CV, you have to use this function norm equals to, okay, equal norm SINV alpha over 2. So our alpha is always 0.05. That means alpha over 2 is 0.025. Use the Excel function to find the value of CV. Your Excel should have all this information, the P bar and Q bar, and how you calculate the test statistic here. You have to use the formula, and the CV also you have to use the Excel function. How you get all this value? Make sure you use the function count if. You all need to use Excel. Okay, sorry. And here is how the PDF page will look like. You will need to show the 5 steps hypothesis testing with the output. Okay, everything need to show the output first, right? And the 5-step hypothesis testing, it can be a right tail, left tail, or 2 tail, up to you. Right, this is the CV for right tail. Oh, by the way, this formula if you use 2-tail test, it will be alpha over 2. If you use 1-tail test, you will just need to use alpha. Okay, if 1 tail, you use alpha. 1 tail, use alpha. If 2 tail, alpha over 2. Okay. So for step 3, you just mention your test statistic. And step 2, you just mention the CV. And you will do your decision and conclusion. That's how we do the hypothesis testing for testing the 2 mean and 2 proportion. Thank you.